Hey folks, welcome back to Game Garbage, where we take a look at games, chat about the game news in the industry, and of course stream for fun. Today we're doing Gaming News Consolidated. This is October 6th through the 12th. And man, this is probably the biggest one that I've had so far. So probably strap in for about an hour. And my goal with Gaming News Consolidated is to take a few hours, it was definitely more than that this week, during the week and consolidate all for you here. I watch hours of videos. I take time to read articles. I research stuff. Try to, if things are a rumor, I try to get more concrete information. Because, yeah, there is a lot of misleading out there, and it's frustrating. It's hard to know exactly who to trust and how much. And, yeah, my goal here is just to give you actual real news. And so if you're curious, this game is actually on Game Pass that you're seeing on the screen. This is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge. This game's actually quite good, very nostalgic for some of the older style stuff. Just a simple game. You get like 8 or 9 different characters that you can play through the campaign with. Campaign's about, an hour and a half, couple of hours, depending on how good you are. And there's some other modes as well, but yeah, pretty fun. But hey, let's go ahead and get into the news. So what all are we talking about today? Well, we got to talk about Digital Foundry finally getting their hands on with the PlayStation 5 Pro and getting to play and see some of those games. We're going to talk about Horizon Zero Dawn and PlayStation and the remasters. We're going to get an update with Sony's PSN requirement for PC. This is actually pretty interesting. We're going to go over Shattered Space. For Starfield, we're going to look at Silent Hill 2, Dragon Ball, Sparking Zero. We're going to talk a little bit about Epic Games. We got a pretty big update for Unreal Engine 5, so this will be interesting for those that are starting to actually make games for like the next-gen consoles. And it's making it easier for them, which is great. So games that are in development, maybe even GTA 6 are going to benefit from this. Halo and 343 Studios, Nintendo, Until Dawn Remaster, and then some kind of interesting stuff with Microsoft and other stuff even on top of that. So we got a bunch. Thanks for tuning in. Gaming Garbage 22 over at YouTube. If you wish to like, sub, and if you enjoy the content, go ahead and share it too. I think that just helps out the algos, and my goal here is really just to get you guys engaged and keep you guys up to date and or entertained too, and do reviews of games that I can, like Star Wars Outlaws, which, yeah, that was pretty bad. So let's get into Krafton. They've officially partnered with Pocket Pair. They made Palworld, by the way, and the idea is to bring Palworld mobile. Not even kidding. And so this will be pretty interesting. Krafton launched PUBG Mobile back in 2018. It was very successful, and the devs that made PUBG, huge. But yeah, now Pocket Pair actually has 3 partnerships. They have Xbox, Sony, and Krafton all in 2024. And these are 3 really big companies. Well, I wouldn't say Krafton is like really big, but yeah, Krafton's big in the mobile space. But I would definitely say that, with 3 big companies now making partnerships, like they have some serious money with Pocket Pair. And this is a big deal because of Nintendo's lawsuit and patent stealing patents, basically, that Nintendo owns is the idea. And so, it'll be interesting to actually kind of see what happens with that. But now there's 4 companies that Nintendo could be fighting against, because each one, Xbox, PlayStation, and now Krafton, they each have a partnership, and if they want to protect their investment, they'd probably invest a little bit into Pocket Pair to make sure that they can get some of the better lawyers. So this whole lawsuit that Nintendo has could actually go on for quite some time. So we'll see. We don't have any release date yet for Palworld Mobile. We don't have any idea of like a movie or a TV series or something with PlayStation, which is Palworld Entertainment. That's the partnership that they have, which will be interesting. And then, of course, Xbox has actually Palworld, the game, helped fund that, helped provide servers, and got that to Game Pass. So, yeah, all of these 3 big companies, they actually have a piece of the pie in this. And I think Nintendo is going to have a harder fight on their hands than they thought, maybe. Let's talk about Digital Foundry. So they finally gotten their hands on the PS5 Pro, and we have real data now. So we have like resolutions, pixelation, aliasing issues, what the ray tracing is like, side-by-side comparisons. I'll link this down in the description below. It's wonderful to actually see it. It's about an hour and 5 minutes. But the short of it is that there are improvements. The improvements depend on several factors, like what the developers are willing to focus on. Some focused more on shadows and ray tracing, others focused more on frame rate, and others gave you a choice of kind of what you want to focus on. But still, even with the Pro, you cannot get 4K at 60 frames. It was actually quite disheartening to learn that every single game on there, and these are generally older titles that have already come out and released, and they have more power, right, with the Pro, but ultimately they're not displayed in 4K resolution, even though they say it is, but like 1550p is not 2160 like actual 4K is, and 1550 was actually the highest. Spider-Man 2 was 1150p resolution, same as the base on PlayStation 5, which is kind of insane. There's actual no boost in resolution there, which is kind of frustrating, but there is some higher frames. There is better ray tracing to some degree. But again, even some of these games like Spider-Man 2 and Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, they still have some issues, and they don't look as great as maybe we think they would on the Pro, which is kind of crazy. So, but yeah, full link down in the description. My thoughts, trying to consolidate it. It's still like 45 minutes, but yeah, sharing each game, my thoughts at the end, their thoughts at the end, and then also the link for their actual video too, if you wish to, watch the side-by-side comparisons, whatever floats your boat. But yeah, I just thought that was interesting. The Pro is, and then people have to decide if, the value proposition, if that's actually worth it to them. If $700 is worth it, which you can still pre-order, by the way. You can go to PlayStation Direct and still pre-order a PlayStation Pro console. Which is great. So yeah, they're not like selling out or disappearing. That might change around holiday time, but or maybe even after they release. But yeah, they are available if you wish to grab one. Please don't pay those scalpers. It's not worth it. Let's talk about PlayStation. They're trying to pull another fast one, and they're making themselves look worse, honestly. We have a remaster of Horizon Zero Dawn. This game's about 8 years old now. And some mentioned, Sony mentioned during the State of Play that if you already own the actual base game, like their original game, you just have to pay $10 to get the actual upgrade, which would be, or you pay for the actual remaster on disc for $50. You can get a physical copy that way. And knowing the loophole, Sony took time to raise the original to $40. So instead of it being $20 or even sometimes on sale, which it has certainly been on sale, it's even been a free game sometime for those that have PlayStation Plus or Premium. And I think it might even be on Premium, actually. So if you just play the game, you might just be able to just pay the $10 if you wish and play the remaster that way. And but yeah, to take the base price of the older game and double it, raise it 100% is just kind of scammy and ridiculous, because we know what they're trying to do here. They're trying to ensure that you spend $50 for the remaster if you want to play it. And I just think that sucks. They're also taking time to remove Zero Dawn from the Epic Store. They've actually already removed it, so it's not on the Epic Store at all. Sony also doesn't allow the complete edition to be sold separately from the remaster upgrade on Steam. So again, you gotta pay that $50. But if you still want to buy Horizon Zero Dawn for under $20 right now, you can go to CD Keys, G2A, K4G, and other domain-free sites to actually just get a code and then pay for that. I saw a lot that were around $10, $15, and then you can just pay for the upgrade if you wish, which is an additional $10, and save money that way. But yeah, in my opinion, this is just kind of really scammy, because while this remaster improves visuals, they did about an extra, redid about 10 hours of voice lines. They maybe even redid some motion capture and stuff, so it does look better. But having to raise the original price 100% to try to make everybody pay $50 for the remaster is pretty dumb. It's not consumer friendly whatsoever. But this is how Sony is ultimately going about it with their monopoly on some of these games. And honestly, I hate exclusives. I don't like the console war personally. It's actually quite frustrating. I just want people to be able to have access to the games they want to play on whatever platform they like. Like, allow players to have choice. And that's what we would all vote for, the ability for us to choose. Maybe, of course, not for everybody, even though that definitely is hypocritical. But yeah, being able to have choice, like, it matters. And the companies, of course, want to be able to control what our choices are. And personally, I don't think we should do that. I think if they're wanting to control too much, we just say no. And that's why there's certain products and services I don't buy, because I don't agree with the business model. And I'm not doing it just for me. I'm letting my vote be known to represent everyone else that doesn't necessarily like it, but votes the other way. But yeah, if enough of us actually vote in mass, we can change the industry, and we are starting to do that. I think Concord was a great example of that. The Horizon IP was also pushed pretty hard with the last state of play that Sony had, and they really want Horizon to sell. So they're changing the $20 to $40, the $10 upgrade for the remaster, or you can just buy the remaster outright if you wish. But personally, I think they should have innovated and done number 3 instead of doing Lego Horizon Adventures, instead of doing the remaster, instead of tweaking stuff on the stores, so that, again, to try to funnel everybody into paying $50. It's just a disgusting practice. And yeah, I'm not going to buy it. Even if I had a PlayStation, I wouldn't buy it. It's the same with some of the stuff on Xbox. It's like, if in my opinion, like, Starfield was going to be on Game Pass Ultimate, and I was going to be able to get that, then I should be able to get the DLC as well, especially when it's a first-party title. Because otherwise you're having me pay for $30 for roughly 5 to 10 hours of content, and that is it's just too much, unfortunately. And that's not reviewing very well either, but we'll get into that. Next, let's talk about Sony again. So ever since Helldivers 2, you remember they required that PSN requirement, requiring a PSN account to actually log in and play the game. Well, this was implemented for Helldivers 2. In my opinion, it kind of killed off some of the momentum of the game, along with some other decisions that were made by Arrowhead. PlayStation does this, Sony does this for all of their ports exclusives that go on PC game stores right now, like God of War Ragnarok. What we found interesting was that, oh no, it's Alex's channel, that God of War and Until Dawn Remaster actually start without logging in. And I thought this was kind of curious. Now, from what he said, he did not log into his PlayStation account, and he was able just to boot up the game. And he was actually able to do this with both games. He showed this on screen with Until Dawn Remaster. And it just doesn't necessarily make PlayStation look good, because here they're fighting so hard to make it a requirement, and then they're not enforcing it. And they're just creating a big headache. It's bad optics. Like, they're not looking great as a company. They're not putting their players first. And it's just frustrating people. And like, if they take enough time to piss off enough people, eventually they're going to start like stagnating in their player base. And I think we're already seeing that, along with Xbox too. Xbox has also made decisions that aren't great. They've all had other games that aren't good ones, and have been major letdowns. And so, yeah, the industry's going through a tough time, but both companies are struggling. And we're even seeing that with Nintendo too. Like, here, they've uninnovated Pokemon forever. Their games, again, are crappy, the ones that they try to make open world for the Pokemon universe. And then here we get Palworld. And they're pissed. And it's like, well, actually make a freaking good game. Put your players first. Make your products good. And people will pay the money. Just like Silent Hill 2. So far, that's actually going pretty good. Just like Space Marine 2. Just like Black Myth Wukong. Okay. Dragon Ball, Sparking Zero. All of those games. Like, you can make money. But again, it's not all of the profit margin that they want. Least amount of effort, highest profit. That's what they're going for. But yeah, I just thought this was interesting. And two, if we remember, Sony actually doesn't allow PSN in most of the territories of the world. It's roughly about 180, 200 of them. And yeah, they don't allow PSN to even be there. They're not willing to pay the fees or the licensing or exactly whatever it is. Because Xbox can kind of be everywhere. But yeah, I just think that's kind of crazy. And then here they're trying to enforce everyone to have a PSN account. So, and Sony has blatantly said that it's like all of their exclusives going to PC, they don't care if those other territories can't play. So they want the PSN account requirement. And then, you know, the games just aren't even available in their region or country, which again, I just think is insane. They're not being consumer friendly. And I think that is starting to kind of bite them in the ass because you can only get beat up for so long. It gets frustrating. And this is why people, too, have just simply been done with consoles. They want to move on to PC. They want to have more liberty, more freedom, the better ability to make choices. And I don't blame anybody for that. I might eventually go PC as well if things continue to get worse with consoles. Because, yeah, I have complaints about both. And so right now, if you're pretty much in North America, Canada, Mexico, or most of Europe, Australia, you can have access to these PlayStation exclusives on PC. But yeah, the rest of the world, you're just out of luck. You got to play something else. And if Sony really wants to make money, they would open up their player base, right? They would open up potential sales and actually do that. Let's talk about. Let's talk about Starfield Shattered Space. Well, it's kind of on fire. It's not doing very well at all. Steam Charts DB is showing a 31.5 out of 100. This is out of 3,400 reviews as of the time of doing this, doing the news that I wrote down. And the biggest frustrations for people are some pretty big bugs. There's no actual real companions. You can get 2 followers, but again, they're not like actual companions in the game. Main quest for quite a few people that play video games is 5 hours. Some even accomplished it a little under that, not trying to blast through it or whatever, according to them, like Force Gaming and Mr. Matty Plays, but just playing the game and Luke Stevens too. Just like, yeah, I've played the game and it's pretty easy, it's pretty small, it's buggy. There's also still a lot of repetition stuff. Like buildings and structures, and there's not really an incentive to go explore. The driving is frustrating on the planet because, again, they put in driving after enough people complained, so they gave them what their customer base wanted, but then their planets weren't designed really for something to be driven in. It was just designed to just jog around, which I think that was just a frustrating optic to begin with because it's like, yeah, why would you want someone to jog 4 or 5 minutes to get somewhere that wasn't worth their time, and then repeat that 3 or 4 times in event like caves in the game? God, so frustrating. There's some wonderful aspects of the game, but there's some horrible aspects too. People too are saying that the narrative is boring. There's really long dialogue sequences. Yeah, there's just a lot of stuff missing. There's also kind of like a lack of unique weapons and armor and companions and hap and ship stuff, and there's just not like really a lot going on from what we've seen from other DLCs that Bethesda has done with like Fallout or Skyrim or Oblivion, and or even with Fallout 76. And it's just like they're kind of missing the mark on this one. It feels like all of the elements are there. The art style looks really good. There is a lot of content close by, but again, it just feels like a buggy, shallow mess for a lot of people. And yeah, it is just not selling very well. And then too, what I did hear from quite a few videos listening to people is that they did keep bringing up the price for what they were getting. The price was way too much. If the DLC was more like $20 or $25, they would feel a lot better about the actual DLC, and have a better attitude about it or a better bias for it. But you know, when it's $35, $30, depending on where you bought it or if you got it on a sale or not, it's kind of painful. So I think with the bad optics that are surrounding it, which I was kind of assuming this would happen, I've I've waited to actually get Starfield Shattered Space because I want to get it for like, yeah, 10, 20 bucks and call it a day, because that's kind of more what I was thinking. And then with the issues that I personally didn't like with the base game, I thought the same would happen with the DLC, because it's the same company, it's the same devs, and they're people are a creature of habit always. So I'll eventually be picking that up. We'll eventually be booting it back up and taking a look, and that'll be, yeah, that'll be interesting, because it's been a while since I've played. I've played about, I don't know, 25, 40 hours. Well, yeah, maybe around 30 hours ish. I don't know. Like I said, it's been a long time since I've played. But yeah, Starfield is just not overly doing very good. Excuse me. I want to mention too that Bethesda had planned just one DLC, Shattered Space, for Starfield, but now that Starfield has had enough sales, that they have made actually enough money from it, which I think that's a concern too. It's like, hey, we made a lot of money. We should do another DLC, by the way, number 2, or maybe even do more than that. Make it like a Fallout, or like a Fallout, 76 again, or Skyrim or Oblivion. I still think the issue is like they made that money with consumers having good faith that they were making a really fun and enjoyable game experience, but that's not what the gamers experienced. Some people did. Some people really like Starfield and have a blast with it. But a lot of people didn't, too. And it's very divided. And that's okay. Everyone can have their opinions, and everyone is older now compared to when they played Oblivion or Fallout 4 or Skyrim. And some circumstances have changed for a lot of us, and there's just certain aspects or things that we think should be there, especially when they've showed it in their previous games. But yeah, they will be doing a second DLC, and I don't think that'll sell well either. I mean, if people have already kind of lost trust with Bethesda with Fallout 76, which took 2 years to basically fix, and then they did Starfield again, which a lot of people didn't like. There were some pretty big bugs at the beginning, and then Shattered Space is reviewed a heck of a lot worse than the base game. I don't think the next DLC is really even going to sell. So good luck to them, I guess. I hope they're paying attention. I hope they can figure it out. Lucas Stevens, his channel, he pulled 30,000 people, and half of them are less excited for Elder Scrolls 6. And I think this is a concern too. I had my own concerns after Starfield, and I understand what some people have said with saying that it's a Bethesda game, it's how they make their game, but I also don't think you can keep making the same game, like Call of Duty, for example, and expect it to sell. Eventually, people are going to get tired, people are going to mature, people are going to play different games that are better or have new mechanics and create a better experience. And then you're like, well, why can't this other company do that? So I think Bethesda needs to sit back and actually take some time to innovate, instead of just assuming that their same model for the last 20 years is going to keep working. Because we still want to explore. We still want to have a good time. And there's still exploration games out there that are really, really good. Like Ghost of Tsushima, Ghost of Yote looks pretty good. We also had Red Dead Redemption. We had Ghost Recon Wildlands. Like, all of these open world games have done really well. And they've been highly praised and made a lot of money too. But like, yeah, you got to be able to innovate some. You got to be able to make it better for the player, instead of just saying, oh, well, we don't want to do that. And maybe it has something to do with Bethesda having their own engine. You know, they have the creation engine. They gave it a 2.0 upgrade, basically. And so they're able to do stuff. But there's a lot of the same kind of things there, and mechanics that are there. And it's definitely no Baldur's Gate. Starfield, in my opinion, is still a fair product. It's still an okay product. It is the smoothest game they ever made. It had the best launch out of any other game they've ever released. And, they did do a pretty good job. There's some things that work really well in the game. But there's other aspects that I think are just absolutely missing. And yeah, the game is boring, unfortunately. The game is boring. And, yeah, they need to be able to pay attention. Otherwise, they're going to lose their consumer base. Because even if like a hardcore fan like Mr. Matty Plays is just saying like, What are they doing with Shattered Space? Like, this is just not what I want. It's buggier than it should be. And now they're going to do more DLCs. I don't think they understand how frustrated their consumer base is, and they better be paying attention. Next, let's talk about Silent Hill 2. Gotten a 93 out of Steam, on Steam right now. And that was just the early access crowd. So they paid for early access an extra like 3 or 4 days. This was out of 5,700 reviews. Yeah, 93%. That's really, really good. Very good, faithful remake from what I've seen through playthroughs. It looks great. They kept the atmosphere. They kept the feeling and the style of a lot of things. They upgraded things that they should. They maybe tweaked a few things to make it easier to play. And yeah, it's it is very well done. Metacritic has a 87 out of 100. Again, almost a 90 there. Some are complaining not having about stable 60 FPS. A lot of the times it's in the mid 55s. I don't even know how they can tell, honestly, between 5 frames. Most of us probably can't. And then rarely it actually dips to like high 40s, low 50s in some scenes. And so, and this is also on PC. I think the lack of stable 60 frames is still a non-issue. But again, if it's dropping like 15 or 20 frames, yeah, you're definitely going to notice that, and that isn't optimized very well. That should probably be improved, regardless of what platform it's on. But to let you guys know, it is out for PlayStation 5, it is out for PC, and then it will be out on Xbox on October next year. So October 2025, we will get Silent Hill 2. Right now on PlayStation Time Tracker, Silent Hill 2 is a 57. It's actually doing pretty good out of 100 in the last 7 days. So there's definitely quite a few people actually playing this on PlayStation as well. Let's talk about Epic Games. CEO came out and said they finally are financially sound, quote unquote. They made changes, they restructured some, of course, with their layoffs that we've covered on the channel. And they're starting to see good things happen with Fortnite. They made a new record high of concurrent players. They're also increasing in sales with their storefront and etc. And, you know, honestly, we want Epic Games to do well. We want other competition just so that we can continue to have good upgrades to Unreal Engine 5. A lot of developers actually use that. We don't want to use Unity, in my opinion. And we also want just competition in the market. We want people to try to innovate, create new games, create new experiences, give us something to engage and play with. Some people are absolutely okay with playing some of the older stuff, and that's okay. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But there's a lot of us too, such as myself, that just want to continue to play new stuff and continue to have new experiences. Because, yeah, I think ultimately, personally, I think when the gaming industry stagnates, that's when it's going to die. And so I don't want monopolies. I don't want just 2 or 3 companies to control everything, even though we could probably argue that's already happening. But yeah, we want as much competition as possible in every aspect of the gaming industry so that it can stay healthy. This leads me into the next thing. Unreal Engine 5 got a big upgrade. 5.5 it's called. It's out now. Or will be out shortly. We have something called Mega Lights. This is actually one of the biggest things. This is going to help developers a lot because they're able to allow for easier illumination, even up to 1,000 different light positions. Each one can be adjusted and controlled, manipulated in real time after it's placed. And this allows for different shadows. This allows for better illumination. This is really great for like fog or like horror games. Or other things in the scene that devs are trying to create art with. And so, yeah, instead of hundreds, we can have up to 1,000 now. And then we also have an upgrade to Nanite, so it does faster rendering for skeletal mesh. And so being able to change between different textures or different skins, if you will, they're able to do that a heck of a lot faster. Then we also have Path Tracer. This is actually now a product-ready thing and is more stable or improved. I don't actually know what Path Tracer is, but that is an improvement as well for those of you that know it. There's also other improvements to make creating easier and faster. just for devs. And one thing that we complain about in gaming is that everything takes too long to actually make. Like Concord was roughly in development off and on for 8 years. Skull and Bones was, I think, like 13. We still have Beyond Good and Evil, which is now getting close to 16 years. Duke Nukem was 15. I mean, it's just getting insane, right? Or maybe Duke Nukem was 12, something like that. But yeah, we have some games that have been in development for a really long time. And even like GTA 6, even though that's going to be a really big game, and yes, we want them to take their time, we're still looking at like GTA 5 being a 12-year-old game. Like, think of that. That's pretty crazy. And so, yeah, anything they can do to actually help speed up production effectively is a good thing. Also, Unreal Engine is crushing Unity. For those of us that remember, Unity wanted to just basically say, hey, for every download, pay me money. And a lot of studios were like, nope, we're not going to do that. That's going to bankrupt us. And so Unity has walked some of that back. They are continuing to walk. They've actually completely terminated this now because they have lost $460 million. And I still don't think it's going to save them. There's no way after pulling that move I would trust them again because the board members are the same for the company. The face of the CEO is gone, but the people making the decisions aren't. And so we should remember that too, folks, is the people on the board that we don't see, that we don't know their names, that are making the decisions for a lot of these companies. And I would even say this too for Phil Spencer. Phil Spencer is the face of a company, but he's not really making all of the decisions. Microsoft is. So same with Sony and Nintendo too. So while some of these are kind of more managers, they still have bosses as well. And the people at the very top, they're the board members. They're the ones making the decisions. Let's take a little quick at Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. SteamDB has it at an 87 out of 1,250 reviews. Doing very well. People are enjoying it. I'm seeing it too pop up on Twitch more and more. I'm seeing some folks play it as well. One thing that's interesting, very small file size. We're talking about We're talking about 30 gigabytes, regardless of platform. So there's maybe a gig or so on either side. But yeah, 30 gigs for a game. I just want that to sink in. You know, we have like Black Ops 6, which you got to download all of this other extra stuff. You have COD HQ, and we're looking at like a 280 gig download or something crazy. Now, for those of you that don't know, with Call of Duty games at this point, you can decide what you want to download and what you don't. You just have to make sure that when you're going to install it, there should be a little option that says, you know, to choose or to control what you download, something like that. But yeah, there are options regardless of what platform you're on, and you can choose actually what you want to download. So you can cut out a lot of those gigs. But still, I think Black Ops 6, after playing the beta, is going to be a flippin' huge game. I think it's going to be very big. If Cold War is any indication, it's going to be huge because we have those 4K textures, we have ray tracing stuff, we have the campaign, the multiplayer, Warzone stuff. Warzone is actually the smallest part, which is pretty interesting. So yeah, the game is going to be very big. So if you want to save some space, just pick and choose what you want to shove on there, or rip it off when you're done with it, and then you can save some space that way. But yeah, 30 gigs for Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. It's wonderful. Even a game like Elden Ring, the base game, was 59 gigs. Now Elden Ring, after buying the DLC, is 91. So it's almost at 100 gigs already. So it is getting to be a pretty big game in file size. But it also is a very, very large game. I got like over 500 hours now, my first playthrough of Elden Ring. And yeah, I'm kind of proud of that. I love that game. I truly do. Let's move on to Halo. And so, 343 Studios is dropping the Slipspace engine. And they're moving on to Unreal Engine 5. I think this will help focus more on the actual development of the game instead of learning and updating the engine. Because these engines are actually pretty detailed, pretty complicated, so it takes time to actually learn them, and it takes time to utilize them well. And when you have contractors, well, they're going to be there for, a year or a couple of years, and they got to spend some of those months actually learning the engine and getting good with it. And then their contract's over, and then they don't get rehired back. And so I think 343 Studios, and maybe this is a decision that is being made kind of from the top, closer up toward Phil Spencer, maybe, or actually with Microsoft itself, just thinking out loud that it's like, hey, maybe we should actually make this better, because Halo Infinite was a mess. And the fact that it was a mess, I think, has something to do with this change. And 343 Studios has also had quite a few layoffs, too. Because, again, Infinite just not making money. It took them 10 months to get out one season. And just, it's still not going great. It's better than it was, but it's still not like a wonderful game, in my opinion. I still have to play the campaign, but I did play a lot of the multiplayer, and it's just like, man. And keeping track of, too, with Halo Infinite. Again, that was 2019. I do have an actual physical copy, but I think it's a good thing that they're dropping their own engine and they're going to Unreal. And because the benefit from this is that now they can hire people that have already been trained in Unreal or gone to college for it right out of the gate. And so as soon as they show up to the company, they already know what they're doing. They already can get just and dig right into a project. And that's going to help with production time. Something too with Unreal, we got to see 3 different biomes in Unreal Engine 5. Looks amazing. Looks really good. Also, we got to see Master Chief. And we also got to see one of the Covenant swords, and that sword looks really good. I took multiple times to go back and watch it. Man, it's sexy. It's awesome. So I think the move to Unreal Engine 5 is going to be pretty good for them. Also, the studio rebranded. They are no longer 343 Studios. They are now Halo Studios. And it's kind of sad to see the 343 name go, because originally when the studio started, they got their name from Guilty Spark, which for those of you that know the lore was 343. And so, they got that from just the original Halo 1 game. Yeah, I think that's kind of a bummer. But currently they are, quote, hiring, but again, a lot of these postings were like 6 months ago. So it's likely that a lot of these positions will already be filled. But they were looking for a lot of lead positions for level design, gameplay, art design, etc. So yeah, a lot of those lead positions are filled, but they are looking, I guess, to still actually hire if you're interested in looking for a job. But yeah, I think Infinite really slowed down the product, really got them to see some of the issues they were having, and so they had to figure out a way to actually fix this, and that was switching to Unreal Engine 5. And I hope this works for them. I really do. I hope they get some new talent, actual talent in the door. I think a lot of studios are struggling with this too. We've had a lot of older folks leave, disappear, start their own stuff, or retire. And they take all that experience with them. And then we get new people in, and they just have less experience. And these games are taking longer to make, and a lot of them still suck on top of it. Also, too, leadership can't get out of the way. It's like, just let the people you hired do their job. Would you please? And let them make their games. And I think we can avoid games like Suicide Squad, Skull and Bones, okay, Forspoken. I think we can avoid games like that if we actually do that. So yeah, I do have an opinion that Slip Space was kind of maybe the bottleneck, was kind of an issue. Maybe they updated the engine and partway through development, and that really messed up Halo Infinite. But yeah, for me personally, after Halo Infinite, after even Halo 4 and 5 and Infinite, the last several games that they've had, it just feels like it's gotten worse. It's gotten more microtransaction-y. That's been the focus instead of actually making a really fun and good game. And Halo 2 and Halo 3, man, they were just a blast to play. And yeah, they got to prove themselves. And I hope they know that. They need to actually prove that they are making good products again that we actually want, not the ones they want to sell us, and have Halo come back. I think that'd be wonderful. Let's talk about Nintendo. So Nintendo's actually clamping down on emulation and trying to protect their IPs, but this is kind of getting out of control. So Yuzu, they had already been shut down earlier this year, and they were fined several $1 million, and they were closed on the grounds of piracy. because they actually had some code and stuff for Tears of Kingdom even before the release date. So yeah, that is a no-no. You can't do that. But now we have Ryujinx. I hope I'm saying that right. No reason given, just a forced closure for them to completely shutter. And Ryujinx technically was legal. It was in the good. They made sure they could be. And they do not want to help with piracy in any way. There's no wrongdoing as far as we know, but both of these emulators now, they're gone. And, many of these exist to preserve older games. Again, a lot of these big companies, Nintendo, Sony, Microsoft, they don't want to sell their older remastered games, or excuse me, they don't want to sell their older legacy games. PlayStation does it in a way where you pay for a PlayStation Premium and you can get a lot of the older titles. But again, they're not. It's not like they're improved or anything. They're just the actual base game, and you pay for this for every month. I would rather have the choice just to actually buy these older legacy titles or have collections. My buddy Dexor actually likes PlayStation Premium because he has access to all of these games. And so for some people, it definitely is depending on what you want to do and what you want to play and how you want to play these games. I'd love to see some of these remasters. Instead of The Last of Us Part 2 remastered after 3.5 years, instead of Horizon Zero Dawn after 7 years, I'd like to see some of these titles like an entire Ratchet and Clank collection remastered. Dude, frick yeah. Even a little bit remade for better gameplay. I think that would be so incredibly fun. Like if they could do Tomb Raider 1, 2, and 3 collection and do it that way for Ratchet and Clank, Jack and Dexter, I guess Shadow of the Colossus wouldn't have one, but a remaster of that one again would be wonderful too. Doing Bloodborne, greenlighting Bloodborne 2. Any of this stuff. It's like, come on. Remastering an entire collection for Ace Combat. There's like 10 games out there. You know how many people would actually pay for that? It's one of the biggest combat fight simulators that people play and have been playing for the last 30 years. Like, some of this just doesn't make sense to me. Oh well. It is what it is. Emulators, too. Most companies are just leaving their old titles behind and they're never bringing them back, just like we talked about. Sly Cooper would be another one. It'd be great to have these back, and emulators actually help keep these alive and keep these accessible. And there is a way to do it legally. But yeah, companies with control, they want to, control their content, control their customers, control their pricing. And yeah, the remasters and collections, etc., it'd be nice to have those, but control is really the point of monopoly. And it's just not better for the player, unfortunately. So I like what Sony is doing with Horizon. They're just pushing another remaster when they could do better choices, in my opinion, somewhere else. I'd love to see some of the older titles and collections that I mentioned. It would be wonderful. Nintendo 2 is also copyrighted Retro Game Core. That's a channel on YouTube that uses emulation. And certainly for one video, we can see why he got a copyright strike, because he was showing something he really wasn't supposed to be showing to the public. And but another one of the strikes that he got was for a Wii U game. Again, who even thinks of Wii U anymore? But I'm not sure really what Nintendo is doing or planning, but they are clamping down hardcore on anything that they don't control. They're going after Palworld, they're going after emulators, they're going after copyright strikes on YouTube. And this has been a complaint too with YouTubers and streamers, is that Nintendo is just chronically making all of these claims, making it a headache for people. And some content creators have just said, look, I don't cover Nintendo stuff. I just don't do it because it's not worth losing my channel. And maybe I should start a channel where we just cover Nintendo stuff. And so if it gets taken down, I don't care. Ooh, that could be interesting. Maybe. Yeah, but where's the time? That's the question. But yeah, too, I think Nintendo actually better be careful, because while they are still selling a ton of unit sales for their Switch and OLED, they're base console and their refresh basically lasted about 7 years. And that's kind of a quick turnaround, and they're already looking at bringing out the Switch 2, which again, in my opinion, doesn't seem like a huge, massive improvement. But again, we'll have to see what the actual Switch 2 is, if it's a next generational leap or if it's more just kind of like a refresh 2.0. So, yeah, we'll see. But yeah, I think honestly, Nintendo better be careful, because with how they're going after everybody, eventually people are going to fight back. Or simply just not buy their stuff. I mean, they're already having people that don't want to cover their content in fear of just dealing with the mess. And so that's free promoting, Nintendo. That's like free media, okay? I can't think of the right word right now, but it's like they can get free advertising. That's it. Absolutely. Why wouldn't they want to do that? Why wouldn't they want to innovate Pokemon to keep people paying for it instead of people complaining about their Pokemon games? Or Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Mario or anything else. Now, their Mario ones seem to do really well, but again, I think with and personally, Echoes of Wisdom, the Legend of Zelda game, that's not a Legend of Zelda game, gosh dang it. That's Princess Mega Wand copying stuff. Okay, it's not the same game. And most of us probably don't want that. So I heard too that Echoes of Wisdom was also having some kind of bugginess and some frame rate issues with the game. But I'll look into that next week, as it's been out for a while. Let's see. So the Until Dawn Remaster. Let's talk about this. Metacritic has it at a 76 out of 100. Steam Charts DB has it as a 65. Peak players were 2,600 players on Steam and dropping pretty fast. Again, it's not a very big game, so I wouldn't expect people to play it for very long, but 2,600, you would expect it to be a little higher than that. Currently, 600 concurrent players, but yeah, the game is short, but yeah, they are losing players pretty fast. Also on PlayStation Time Tracker, Until Dawn doesn't even show up. It's not even there on the top 100. Major work was done on the game, putting it through Unreal Engine 5. A lot of new assets to be made, but things don't look great in the game. Core visuals do look good. The resolution, okay, that's consistent, like 1440p, which is pretty standard for a lot of games in the industry. So think of like Space Marine 2, okay? Something like that, but we have frame rate drops. Frame rates are locked at 30 frames per second. We have aliasing issues. We have splitting frames. We have a film grain that updates every 10 to 15 frames per second. So imagine having 30 frames, but then the film grain is changing twice every second, maybe even 3 times every second. And that's got to be distracting as crap. That's really, really bad. You want your filters to be updating at the same frame rate that your game is playing at. Otherwise, you're going to get that kind of jittery, stuttery, blippy feel while you're playing. And yeah, that's just not going to look very good. There's also a lot of jitter with motion in the picture. As long as nothing's moving, it looks fine. But as soon as there's movement, there's some jitter there, and it just breaking even of the frames. Review copies were also sent out within 24 hours before release, which doesn't bode very well. So I think they knew the game was kind of crap. Usually most reviewers get about a week or so to review a game, but yeah, 24 hours, they didn't really want people to review it. There is better lighting in the game, but I feel like, too, that also takes away the feel of the game. So this is a big contrast between Until Dawn versus Silent Hill 2. Silent Hill 2 plays, looks, and feels exactly like you expect, right? It keeps that vibe, it keeps that atmosphere, and it freaks you out. Until Dawn was a very dark game, moved to a very bright game, and a warmer tone instead of a cooler tone, and it just changes the whole atmosphere of the game. The people aren't enjoying that either. Again, the resolution is pretty consistent at 1440p. And without giving away too much, it looks like they're actually going to continue with the IP in some way. And again, I'm not really sure if we want Until Dawn. I don't know if we want to continue to keep having more stuff, but we did find out there's also a film in the making for Until Dawn. Again, it's like, I don't freaking understand. There's even supposed to be a film in the works for Horizon, and it's like, why are they picking these IPs? Why are they doing what they're doing? To me, it makes total sense to make these collections, to actually go back and remaster some of this stuff, remake some of this stuff. Like Silent Hill 2, that Square Enix did, is a great one. Of course they should do that. That game was out, 20 years ago. Long time. So yeah, it makes perfect sense to actually remaster that and remake it and stuff and make it great. And it's going to sell. Again, it got a 93. Then again, it's like you have Until Dawn, and it's like, okay, it's got a 67, 65. It's not great. It's not going to sell as much. And it's going to be incredibly frustrating. And then it's like, yeah, now we're going to make a film. Okay, hopefully not like Borderlands. That thing was flipping on fire. Not in a good way. So yeah, I just don't understand what they're doing. All right, last page here. Finally, we have an idea of what 100 Star is working on. So to give you some background information, 100 Star was co-founded by the founders or co-founders of Rocksteady. And they're starting their own studio. During the development of Suicide Squad, they got the ball rolling. They probably knew this game really wasn't going to be great, that people weren't going to enjoy it. And they left before the game actually came out. And so they didn't necessarily go down with the ship, and I understand why people can be frustrated about that. But if you're wasting your time, are you going to stay there? Personally, I would stay there until release date. The day after, I'd be gone. But I agree to an extent. I would at least stay until the release of a game. Take some responsibility for that, as a lot of the decisions that were being made were mine. But I don't think we have the entire story. We know that Suicide Squad development was actually quite the mess. And we know that Warner Brothers came 3 separate times to the CEOs or the co-founders of Rocksteady and said, look, we want you to make this type of game. And eventually they said yes, which is a mistake. I think we certainly all know that now. Yeah, they got tired of kind of their overlords, probably. Again, every boss, every CEO has a boss. They are not at the top. And so they went out and funded 100 Star. They also took some of the devs with them from Rocksteady. Did they take the crappy labor? No. They took probably some of the better devs actually at Rocksteady or Rockstar, excuse me. No, Rocksteady. That's the right one. Yeah, it's easy to get confused. I'm sure Lion is laughing right now. But yeah, they took some of the better devs and took them with them. The idea is that 100 Star is going to be 100 devs, all talented, focused, experienced, not just brand new out of the box. And they're going to work on making single-player games. So we do know from the Xbox deal that they have is that they are making a single-player AAA game for Xbox. Xbox is also funding the entire project, and it's an action-adventure game. Other than this, we don't have any other details. So I will keep you guys up to date, because I am curious what they're going to make. Not going to be another Suicide Squad, I can guarantee you that. But yeah, Suicide Squad was just such a mess. And I think it shows, too, that it certainly wasn't what we were expecting from them. And now, Suicide Squad has absolutely damaged the reputation of Rocksteady. With Rocksteady coming out and saying, hey, we're going to make another game, not as many people are going to trust it now. It's just like the same with Bethesda or any other studio, like Blizzard or Activision or Ubisoft. When you mess up enough, eventually your player base starts to lose faith in you, and eventually they just leave. So I think we saw that with Star Wars Outlaws. I think, too, we're becoming more wise that AAA games generally suck, or they're kind of scammy. They don't really provide as much as we think they do. And so we're waiting for, I think there's more of us taking time to wait for reviews and stuff. And having a good time watching people play the game and then deciding if we should spend $70 ourselves, because it is expensive. It is getting quite costly. So yeah, we'll have to see. I'll keep you guys up to date on what they're making. Something interesting with Microsoft. So this kind of seems off topic, but I will get to why this may be relevant. Microsoft has now signed deals with fiber optic companies to pay for $10 billion plus worth of fiber and contracts to connect their data centers. And this is probably just the start, because this isn't just 10 billion, this is 10 plus. So this is like ongoing contracts, probably for a certain period of time, maybe a decade. And that's kind of insane. And we already know, too, that they also paid for 20 years of nuclear power from 3 Mile Island. They have paid enough money. This is crazy. They have paid enough money to unmothball the reactor at 3 Mile Island. They're paying for all of the permits, all of the safety stuff that's got to be updated. Because, again, it's been a few years since it ran. So they also have to check everything, all of the testing, make sure it's actually ready to run. And then Xbox is paid for 20 years of all employees' salaries, vacation time, all of that kind of stuff. They're paying Constellation Energy to actually run this plant for 20 years. And I guarantee you, folks, once they start actually consuming a lot of this energy and power, Microsoft's not going to stop. They're a growing company, heavily focused on AI and data centers and streaming services and cloud and all of this other stuff. And Xbox is just a sliver. It's just a sliver of their company. Very, very small. And so, yeah, I'm just extremely curious what they figured out. I'm very curious about what they're building, what they're doing. I do believe this has something to do with AI. I do believe that the data centers are going to be a learning center. But I wonder in what way. And I'm curious, too, if this is all going to be focused on a learning program for the new Xbox, or if it's going to be more for like Azure or Microsoft 365. I don't know. I'm very curious, but they are spending a ton of money. Let me put it into perspective. Paying for the nuclear power generation, paying for the fiber optic, and hooking up these data centers is roughly, half to as much of what PlayStation made all of last year. And they're not even producing anything yet. They're just buying the power, they're getting the cable ready, and they're connecting these data centers. So what the heck are they doing? This is so much money. And I'm very curious. We don't know of any current government involvement. We do know there's some at the state level, but not at the federal level, at least that we know of. But I wonder if there's just something else completely going on, because Microsoft is like the tip of the spear right now for AI stuff, and they've actually started commercializing it pretty well, and they're making revenue off of it. They were able to say that in their earnings reports this year. But yeah, it just has me really curious what's going on. Because yeah, it's big. Whatever it is, it's big. And if it is for the new Xbox, is it bigger than Xbox? Is it bigger than next gen? Is it bigger than Microsoft 365? Is it bigger? Still. Yeah. This seems like a really big plan. I mean, we're talking they're buying power for 2 decades. I mean, there isn't another single company doing that anywhere else in the world. Just them. So yeah, I'm very curious. Let's move on. Sony did say something about, or we did find out from Sony that they did exclude everybody from the 30th year anniversary besides Japan. So let's dig into this. I actually did I did get an email from the guy that I saw this on, because again, this wasn't anywhere else. I didn't see this anywhere else, just his channel, but he did give me a link, and it looks pretty verified, kind of generally what we'd expect, basically. excuse me, from any of this other news. I just think this week was particularly busy, and I'm sure we'll hear about this later from some of the bigger news channels on YouTube. But yeah, I was able to find a couple of articles. So yeah, it seems legit. But when the 30th anniversary became available for pre-order, everyone basically had to wait, sit in queues, and try against bots and all of that stuff. Well, Japan didn't have to do it that way. They had a special registry that required 30 days of use on PSN to actually join this registry, and then they were in. There was no waiting. There was no getting up early. There was a lot less having to deal with bots because this actually had to be 30 days of like game time. I don't know if that's 30 times 24 hours worth of game time, or if it's just gaming some every day for 30 days. But roughly, 30 days of using your PSN account. And, bots, of course, don't play games, so they would probably be out of that. It probably wouldn't exclude all of the bots, but it probably would exclude a lot of them. And then, once part of the registry, it would turn into a lottery once pre-orders went live, and then they would just let the Japanese resident know if they won or not. Talk about stressless. It's kind of nice. And you're also not fighting against as many bots, which is also nice. And it's like, it made me wonder, okay, why didn't they do this for everybody? They literally could have done it for everybody with a PSN account. People on Xbox, people on PC, well, maybe PC if you have a PSN account. Most probably still don't. But you would basically just include those that really want a PlayStation, right? Because they probably have a PS5 anyway. And then you're excluding the bots as well. And it's a stressless experience, or at least less stress. You just got to verify your account, register, ta-da, and you're in the lottery. And then you just wait. You just wait to hear back. So yeah, this could have been conducted for everybody, not just Japan. And the fact that they did this is just kind of frustrating because they get notified if they won in Japan, and then it gets shipped on release date. Again, stressless. And why wouldn't they do that for all of their player base? I honestly don't know. The anti-bot measures are also pretty nice. It's to ensure fairness. That's why they did it. But again, why do they do that for everybody? It's just kind of shocking. Because I think we would all want that. We would all want a easier time actually getting something that we want, especially something that's limited. But instead, we have scalpers trying to sell the 30th anniversary for 35 grand. I mean, you can just go F yourself. That's just insane. I mean, $1,000 to $35,000. Are you crazy? Maybe that's a typo, but still, some of these are trying to sell for $4,000 or $5,000. And these scalpers, they're not winning anyway, at least on eBay. eBay has changed their policies to where you cannot raise the price of a limited item. So there goes the 30th anniversary. And then you also can't post pre-sales. It actually has to be launched, and then you can put it out there to sell on eBay. So all of the posts right now for the 30th anniversary are illegal. And so yeah, they're going to have to figure out something. And the longer, I guarantee you, the longer these scalpers hang on to these consoles, the more they're going to drop the price. Because all it takes is one person to drop the price, and then everybody else starts dropping. And maybe you still pay $2,000. Maybe you still pay $2,500. But you don't have to pay what they're asking. It's a market, folks. You have the ability and the choice to wait. You can also just, maybe later, at least for the Slim, they're going to release more Slim models. You can still get the 30th anniversary Slim. And then you can go out, buy a hard drive, slap it in. Ta-da! And you have your 30th anniversary disc console. That'd be kind of cool. That would be kind of cool. So, I don't know. There's options out there, folks. I hope you guys just aren't blowing your money. If you have money to blow, dude, you're figuring out better than the rest of us. Bravo. Wonderful. I'm glad you're doing well. But yeah, it just seems unfair, unfortunately, to fight against bots. And the fact that Sony could have done this for everybody is just frustrating. So that's what I got for gaming news, folks. Thanks for tuning in. Boy, with Hurricane Milton and Helene, it's really messed up a lot of states. National Guard's being activated. So far, we know with Helene, there's about 90 people that have died. And then we're going to have to wait a while to actually hear all of the deaths so far. Roughly, there's about 10 so far with Milton. Luckily, I think a lot of people, too, also evacuated. So that's good. Well, we're already looking at $100 billion worth of damage for Helene, which just means higher costs later for all of the residents there, which is going to be incredibly frustrating and just more challenging in the future financially. And not everybody makes it through financial hardship. Some people just quit, and you know exactly what I'm talking about, and that's why I bring it up. And then with Milton, it's going to be worse. So, yeah, storm was really, really bad. I actually stayed up all night just watching coverage, and yeah, just praying for folks. Whether you're religious or not, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing to just care about people. I really don't. I think it's a wonderful thing to do. So you can always find me at Gaming Garbage 22 over at YouTube. Don't forget, we also have Discord, Twitter X, and also Twitch. Twitch, you can get everything there right away. As soon as I broadcast, it's on Twitch. You can watch it right there. No editing involved. It is what it is, and you can just enjoy the show. And thank you, too, for those that are engaging, commenting, liking, sharing, all of that stuff. It just helps out the channel, and I actually really appreciate it, because I do care about the gaming industry. It's why I do this. And I spread some entertainment along the way, absolutely. But yeah, if we don't control, if we don't take control of our spending and who we're investing in, we're going to lose the gaming industry completely. And I still think there's hope out there. I was even talking with Dexter about this last night. It's just like, there's still hope out there that, you know, the younger folks are starting to figure it out too. That they're starting to see what the older ones already know. So keep fighting out there, folks. Keep holding the line. Keep being active. And with that, folks, we'll see you guys on the next one.